All right, guys. Congratulations to Coach Eberflus and the Bears. They did enough to be able to get it done. There's a lot of things that come to mind that are disappointing about us not getting the result. I like the way that we battled, but in the first half, offensively, we were able to, really throughout the course of the game, move the ball, did a really poor job of finishing drives. For us to have 4 drives in the first half, settle for 3 field goal attempts, and then obviously the one play drive that resulted in a turnover, that was a killer. I thought our defense played excellent from the jump. But for us to only have 6 points after, the way that the guys were able to move the football, we have to do a better job once we get into striking distance of finishing drives with touchdowns. The guys stayed in the fight. There were some good things, but there was some really uncharacteristic mistakes that we made as a team in regards to just some mental errors where we left people free, and you can't do that if you're going to be a good offense and consistently execute. Certainly, we'll go back to work. Everybody has a hand in this, and we can all be better, and it always starts with me. And disappointed for our group, but excited about testing our resolve like this season has already done in a handful of instances.
What were the combination of factors that did lead to the red zone issues early on today?
I mean, every single drive kind of has its own individual story. We obviously took the negative. We took the sack on the second down situation, so you're kind of overcoming a bad situation there. Then we got away with not having the turnover when Brisker was out of bounds and didn't reestablish. There was certainly some sequencing and some things like that where you want to put guys in better spots. So I'll always look at myself first and foremost on that. But for us to be able to move the football as well as we did to get into those situations, they tightened up. Some of it was definitely where I've got to do a better job of it. And then there's times where we can execute collectively better in terms of just our overall techniques, fundamentals, and ability to fight through the down based on what the defense presents.
Sean, late in that game, Quentin gets that sack, and you guys get the ball back and then go 3 and out. Did you have any thoughts of trying to pick up those couple?
There was a possibility, but where we were at and for the defense to have that momentum and, some of the different things, didn't really think about in that situation, but it's not something that would have been, totally crazy to think about. I thought he did good. I thought there was some really good things. I thought there was a couple times where we weren't targeted accurately in some protections, and he took some unnecessary hits. Obviously, he's hit as he's attempting the one where we maybe give ourselves a chance to go, try to win the thing in dramatic fashion. But did a lot of good things. I'm interested to look at the tape to see some of the things that we can improve on collectively around him with just the overall fundamentals, techniques, ability to execute. And then, like I'll always say, certainly want to be able to try to make sure I'm putting him in spots to succeed as well. But did a lot of good things today.
You're still processing this, but sitting at 1-3, going into a game against the Packers before the bye, how are you feeling about? I'm not,
I think you just take it a week at a time. What I'm not going to do is ride the emotional roller coaster that this season will take you on. What an amazing, traumatic turn of events from week to week, and we just saw that. And so the thing that I would say, Gary, is when you look at this game today, there was things that can be improved upon. The reasons that we didn't execute were very correctable. We have to make sure that we're creating better clarity as coaches, guys understand it, and then we're ultimately able to go execute. The energy was there. There was a good edge, but we were lacking in the consistent execution throughout, and that's what we have to be able to do, and that's what we'll continue to strive to do. But I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself. We take it a day at a time, a week at a time. Today was a disappointing outcome. We had our opportunities, to come away with the result that we're hunting up in this football game, and ultimately we didn't get it done, and the Bears did.
Being able to lean on Kyron again, what's that about what he was able to get?
Yeah, it was good. I thought he did a really good job. I thought he impacted the game in a positive way. Ultimately we've got to be able to consistently do that if we expect to be, a quality offense.
Second quarter, things really especially seem to compound between the turnover and then the missed field goal and then the holding calls that nullified the sacks. When you go into the locker room at the half, how do you try to reverse course? And what was your takeaway from that quarter seeming to really swing?
Well, I think you addressed exactly. You just said exactly what happened. The players know what the truth is. They had penalties that allowed them to be able to sustain drives. They had a penalty that allowed them to have the ball on the 1-yard line when it looked like we were going to do a good job in a sudden change situation. So we have to play with the right techniques and fundamentals to avoid those calls. We didn't execute a protection that led to the sack that Sweat got. That should not occur on that protection. That's something that just can't happen. And it did. And it led to a turnover that ended up being really the difference in the, a key factor in the difference in the outcome. It looked like we ended up having to kick the laces on the missed field goal. But all of those things are things that you address, you keep it real with them, and you say, let's try to avoid those with the solution-oriented mindset and mentality in terms of how do we avoid the penalties? How do we make sure the snap and hold where we're not giving them the laces? How do we make sure that we're executing with the appropriate techniques on that protection where we gave up the sack fumble? And that's what you tell them. That's all I know how to be able to do.
What did you think about the run defense today?
I thought it was pretty good, and then I thought there was, like anything else. I thought we did a really good job throughout the course of the game, and then the key drive that we had to have, they ended up popping a long one that Swift ended up scoring from 36 yards out. I kind of saw what had happened, but, those count too, and those big ones, those explosives, that ends up being the difference in football games, and we've got to continue to try to limit those and create them on the offensive side of the ball. Okay? Thanks, guys.
Stafford